Hi, welcome to Thursday Thoughts this week. Last time we had Thursday Thoughts, it was a couple of weeks ago, and Theo mentioned that our intention is to change the format a little bit of the Thursday Thoughts. For a few months, the Thursday Thoughts were personal reflections from Theo or from myself. But now we're going to turn a corner, and the next phase of our Thursday Thoughts is going to be a time for us to introduce to our church community different individuals that you might not know. Maybe you see them at church, you might say hi, but you really don't know too much about them. This is going to change, and we're not going to obviously be able to hit everybody, but we'd like to hit the coolest people, and that's what I've got here today. Okay, today it is my pleasure and my honor to welcome Eddie Janowitz to our Thursday Thoughts. Eddie, say hello.
Hey Eddie. Hey everyone. Thanks for having me on the show.
This is Eddie and Eddie. Here we go. Eddie, do me a favor. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your background, a little bit about your family, a little bit about your church experience, and how long you've been here.
Yeah, sure. So I have been going to CCGC for, maybe 4 years now, approximately. And before that, I kind of bounced around to different churches. And actually, I started going to CCGC because I started dating Pauline, who grew up in this church. And after a year of dating, I'd been going to Berkeley First Presbyterian at the time. We decided we should go to the same church. And this was closer to where we both lived. And it was kind of a next step in our relationship to go to church together. And so we decided to go to CCGC.
That's not true, Eddie. I met you in high school. You came to Oasis. I think it was your junior or senior year. I want to say you came with Russell at that time. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I didn't come with Russell. I came with someone else, but
somebody else? Okay.
Yeah, but it was Lillian Yuan, actually.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
Yeah, she brought me. And probably Paulina and I talked about this, but probably she was actually there, and she was maybe leading worship that night. So it would have been maybe the only time in our lives prior to dating where we would have crossed paths.
Now, I was really excited when you came in high school to meet somebody named Eddie, and I think I even made a deal about it. Do you remember meeting me back then?
I do remember meeting you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was so excited. It's not that common.
Yeah, all those years ago. Yeah.
I think I said something like, you must be a good guy. All right. I think I said something along those lines.
Yeah. And that you were probably that was your first couple years at CCGC, I'd imagine, right?
If you graduated in 2004, it was my third year here. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool.
But okay, so great. So you've been in our church for about 4 years, and your family, what you do, and
So I was born in Taiwan, and in Hualien, Taiwan, and on the East Coast. And my family growing up was my mom, who was Chinese, and my dad, who was Irish and Polish, and we lived in the Philippines for a few years, and that's where my brother Patrick was born. And some of you may know him. He went to this church for a while too. And then we lived a variety of places, including Los Angeles, Washington, Walnut Creek, and then from middle school and onwards, we lived in the La Miranda area in Moraga, and went to Miramani High School. Actually, between high school, where I knew Russ and a couple other people who went to this church, and Chinese school, I actually already knew a decent number of CCGC people, and then. Went to UC San Diego for college, and then went to Cal for grad school in city planning. And then after grad school, I went to, before, maybe rewinding a little bit, growing up, my family wasn't very religious, and we didn't participate in community life. And my mom, she was maybe some mix of Buddhism, Taoism, Chinese folk religion. My dad grew up Catholic, but maybe was, semi-agnostic at the time. But he did bring us to Catholic church to get baptized as kids. And that's actually where I first met the Lord. And my faith has evolved a lot since then, but that's kind of where it all started. We'll come back to that later. But Pauline and I met in 2013 when I was going to Berkeley First Presbyterian at the time, and we started dating. And then coming here to CCGC. Pauline and I now, we've been together, I guess 7 years approximately, and we have a daughter, Chloe, who was born this last September. So she's about 9 months old, almost to the day.
Fantastic. And when would you say that you know, for you personally, considering that you didn't necessarily grow up in a church, you know, a lot of these kids that we have in our church, we would call churched kids. They're churches, going to church, practicing the faith of evangelical Christianity as a part of their lives. And if that wasn't the case for you, where would you say that you really began this, what we would call the personal journey, when you personally placed your faith in Jesus as your Savior and King? When would that begin?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of a long winding path, but I'd say that, like, even as a kid doing like Catholic catechism, I did believe, and it was a very immature, limited faith. But I learned kind of as a habit, maybe because I was like kind of a nervous kid, that when I was afraid, I could pray and talk to God. And so with the kind of limited knowledge of God that I got through the catechism process, and just kind of getting to the habit of talking to God in prayer when I was scared, when I was stressed about things at school or whatnot, the kind of the seed of faith was there from maybe end of elementary school. But it was a really like immature faith. I didn't know much about, you know, sound doctrine or theology, and I feel like just over the years, through the various people I've met and churches I've been at, my view of God and who He and Jesus are just have gotten a little bit clearer over time, and it's been kind of a gradual process. And one of the, I guess, pivotal chapters in that process was probably freshman year of college, when my mom came to faith, and she shared a book with me, The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. And I read that book and I was like, wow, you know, there's a lot of good stuff here. And I went to InterVarsity. I just checked out InterVarsity at UC San Diego, and met some people who really kind of guided me along my spiritual journey. And then I read a bunch of books and really started to understand a little bit more deeply who God was, and maybe what like sound doctrine is, and started to branch out of my Catholic roots and go to churches from other denominations.
Now, just to round out the story about your mother, I've met her several times, and I feel like I know her a little bit. And she is, from what I understand, she's become a very devout Christian. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, she's very active in church. She's, out of everyone in the family that I grew up with, not like in the current family I'm in, she's probably the most devout in terms of like her commitment to her church community and how much she reads the Bible and her journey with God. And so it's been really cool to see, and to see her growth in faith, and just to be able to have spiritual conversations with her has been really cool.
Absolutely. Right. So you talk about Chloe being only 9 months, and I would imagine that really in the last 12 months, that must be the biggest change, not necessarily anything else. If maybe you bought a home, and not nearly as big as that, and maybe you switched job, which you didn't, but you know, becoming a father is monumental. Tell me about that. What's been your experience with that over the 9 months, and you know, highs and lows, and just what's happened like?
Yeah, that's been crazy. It's been crazy. And definitely life-changing. I'd say for me, I never really kind of envisioned what it would like to be a father. And it's not something like having kids it was always something I thought might happen along the way, but it was never something I envisioned in advance. And it's been really, really cool. And I guess starting with, you know, the intensity of the process of coming into the world, where I got to see firsthand what labor and delivery looks like. And that's just such a crazy experience.
Talk about eye-opening, huh?
Super eye-opening, yeah. And kudos.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And we're not even in it.
Yeah, it was very intense. And then they Chloe arrived, they held her up, and at first we were just all so exhausted. It was hard for me to like connect emotionally with her at the time. But as we got a chance to kind of compose ourselves and settle down, it was crazy how there was almost how a deep emotional bond just rapidly developed. I took a month of paternity leave. Pauline took 6 months, and then by the way, went straight right into this COVID situation. So Chloe has seen a lot of us over the last 9 months, a lot more than she otherwise would have. Yeah, so it's been trippy, and I've learned a lot about myself, just the delights and joys of fatherhood. As someone who didn't really like know or envision it in advance, like it's exceeded my expectation. It's been a really happy thing. Yeah, but
you get to experience something that I only get to see from a distance, which is, even though we're both fathers, you're a girl dad, and and I'm not. And I used to always say, man, having a daughter is such a special thing. As a dad, the daddy's little girl. Not just that, but tell me about how having Chloe at home, and she's not 9 months now, and she's got personality, and is she? I'm assuming she's crawling now. Is she cruising yet? Is she walking around on her feet? Where's she at now?
Not quite yet. Just in the last couple of weeks, she started crawling and sitting up. And
just okay. And what's that? And picking herself up?
Yep. And It happened like this. Like, she went from not moving at all 2 weeks ago to now being able to go wherever she wants pretty much, and having to keep her away from things that are dangerous. So,
for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's here it begins. And how about babbling? Is she making noises yet? Making words? And
yeah. She's starting to babble, starting to copy the sounds we make, and just in general, just starting to be so much more aware of her environment, and starting to become more person-like. And that's been really cool. I think we're starting to see her personality. She's not just like this sleepy baby that just cries and sleeps. She's actually starting to like engage with her surroundings a bit more.
Yeah. And how about for you? What would you say has been, obviously not just in terms of your daily routine, but where have you really been stretched and changed? Maybe not just being a father, but now being a husband with you're with Pauline and your parents now. Have you felt that you've been forced to stretch a little bit in certain ways?
I think so, definitely. Yeah. First of all, I think like my patience has been tested, and then the fact that I'm a very impatient person has really been revealed to me. Like sometimes when there's a crying baby.
You're like the most jovial guy I know. You're impatient? I mean, seriously.
I do. Yeah. It's.
What does that look like?
You'll have to ask Pauline. She knows the best.
I mean, unfortunately. You're impatient, but you're still smiling the whole time. Go ahead. Go ahead. You said your patience. You've seen that you're impatient. Yeah.
Yep. And also, just like that, I was really in the mode of like trying to be in control of my day and what happened in a given day. And now, I can't be as productive as I used to be at work. I can't be as productive at home. And sometimes I get to the end of the day and it feels like I didn't get a whole lot done, or I got just a few things on my checklist done. And it's really helped me to just try to entrust each day to the Lord, and realize that whatever comes, and that, because there's now a lot of family obligations, married now with a kid, each day is kind of going to go in an unplanned way sometimes. And so that's definitely something else that stretched me, because I'm really, usually previously, I was really trying to focus on productivity, and now that really isn't possible anymore.
This whole situation of being in quarantine highlights to me one aspect of church life that unfortunately Chloe hasn't yet been able to experience, which is, and a lot of parents are going to watch this, a lot of parents in our church, a lot of dads and moms. Obviously you and Pauline have the primary role of raising her, and grandmas and grandpas. But she's got a lot of uncles and aunties who love her. And when we're able to, want to help hold her and give you guys a break. And, this is very much that mentality of as much as it feels like you're isolated, which we all are, I'm going to speak for every other family, every other parent, every other young adult, every other teenager in this church that we really, I mean, I can't say this enough. The goal perhaps is that we are all raising Chloe together. We're raising Chloe together. You know, we're raising how many girls have been born in the last 12 months in our church, and then Mike and Jenny just had a boy, Ryan. You know, we're raising these kids together so that, you know, it's hard to say that because right now we can't be together, you know, but this is, you know, we collectively want to be as much a part of her life and to support you guys, you know, as you guys are doing for her as well. So, you know, it's fun when you say that she's starting to do all this stuff. It's like, this is when it gets fun to me personally, when they start to exhibit a little personality and even some attitude, and, you know, and when they start to interact, that's the funnest part to me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and that's so nice to hear. And you know, the love I have for Chloe, it's just so nice to be able to be in a community where others can love her too, and where I can, you know, entrust her to others. And it's just really heartwarming to hear that, you know, we're a community that focuses on kind of raising the kids together. And I hope that this whole COVID thing hasn't like stunted her social development in a way. She basically just sees Pauline and I, and we had a pediatrician appointment yesterday, and she bawled. Like, it was too intense. She doesn't leave the house enough, I'm excited to get back to normal and expose her to people again, so that she doesn't just get used to isolation.
Well, you know, if she's around you and Pauline all the time, there are worse things, okay? She's going to be really smiley and sing great, okay? So we already know what her future's like. That's fantastic. Any other thoughts about, you know, being a father that you want to share to the rest of the group here, and just as far as your transition into this period of time, your period of life?
Yeah. I guess I would just kind of reiterate again that it's definitely exceeded my expectations and has brought me joys that like I didn't know existed. So really cool experience, and it just makes me so happy. And I guess the other thing is, like, it really makes me think a lot about the future. Chloe has like a good chance of living to year 2100, and sometimes when I think about that blows my mind. So if this doesn't come back, and if this world keeps going, and if she has a long life, God willing, she'll make it potentially to the next century. And so my perspective about time has changed a little bit. I've got, you know, one generation behind me, and the grandparents that are all still around, fortunately, one generation in front of me now with the nieces and nephews, Silas and Katharina's kids, and now Chloe, and it's really made me think about kind of the concept of time and the concept of like thinking long term about things, because like in a few years, Chloe's going to be at an age where she'll have her first memories, and I'll remember what it'll have been like to be at that age. And you know, if this world continues, I want her to have a good life. I want there to be like peace and stability in this world. All the things that I appreciate about this world, you know, in terms of nature and certain like cultural things that bring joy and happiness. I want her to be able to experience those same things. And so it's making me think long term about our society, and also about what values I want her to have. And trying to be a little bit more intentional now about the things I expose her to, because this culture really kind of this culture has a certain narrative and has a certain set of priorities, and I want her to be able to kind of guide her towards things that are more true and less false. And so I think being a parent just makes me feel a lot more intentional about the future and the things that we invite into our household and family.
All right. Hey, Eddie, I want to thank you again for joining me today for this Thursday Thoughts. It has really been my pleasure, and I hope that for those who are watching, you have a chance to get to know Eddie, and to the point where, you know, the next time we come together, you say, "Hey, Eddie, I saw your Thursday Thoughts. It was great and encouraging to hear you talk about being a dad." And I really hope that people come to appreciate as I have, that you're a part of our community. You bring a certain energy and a joy and a friendliness that we love. And so thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on. Have a great day. And hope
All right.
we'll have met.
All right. Take care, Eddie.
All right. See
All
you.
right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for Thursday Thoughts. Until next time, it's going to be in a couple of weeks. We'll have another edition of this with more church members that we'd like to introduce to you.